Hey guys, Scott Geiser, Lightpath Wealth Advisors. I just wanted to share a brief but important story with you. It's only going to take a couple minutes. On screen, this is my grandmother, Betty. We called her Meemaw. She's sitting next to my son Jack in this photograph, but unfortunately, this past February, we lost her. She passed away at 98 and a half years old, and it's just amazing to think about that. And I'm not telling this story to collect sympathy. I just wanted to share some important learnings from our experience managing the later years of her life, because I feel it's very relevant, as it's something that we'll all have to deal with at some point. But Betty lived quite a life. Both her and my grandfather lived through the Great Depression, later World War II. That's where they met. And as a child in Nebraska, she actually rode a horse to school. I mean, it's hard for me to wrap my head around that, but that's just incredible. But nothing was given to them. They worked hard. They persevered. Both had jobs into their mid-60s. They raised a family in a modest home. And they weren't rich by any stretch of the imagination, but by all standards, they were living the American dream. And, here's my point. For the last 2 decades, I've watched firsthand the effects of longevity risk absolutely destroy my grandmother's estate. And my grandmother isn't some special exception. I mean, this happens all the time. And it might be something that you're going through with your parents or a family member as we speak. And people always ask me, Scott, what motivated you to focus your career on retirement planning? Well, it's this. It's witnessing these events. It's these stories that have left an incredible impression upon me, and it's the reason I do what I do. But my grandmother was not someone that you would consider a healthy person. She battled heart problems. She was overweight. Her nutrition was suspect. I never saw her exercise, and then later in life she battled Alzheimer's. But no one in a million years thought that she'd live much beyond life expectancy, let alone all the way to the age of 98. And later in life, financially, she was helped from a $1,600 a month railroad pension that was a survivor benefit from when my grandfather passed. But she had nothing else in terms of guaranteed income coming in. She had about $250,000 in savings, but when her health started to fail her, kind of in her mid to late 80s, we had to make that tough decision on putting her in an assisted living facility. And anybody that's been through that knows that can be quite a challenge. But when she first went into assisted living, she was paying about $3,400 a month. And this was out of pocket room and board expenses. That didn't include, things like her medication and toiletries, etc. Now, in her later years, she needed greater care. Her mind was failing her, and she needed memory care. And at that point, she needed to transition from what's considered assisted living over into long-term care. And long-term care has a significantly higher price tag associated with it. The cost for that were roughly $9,000 a month. And obviously at $9,000 a month, you're going to be eating through an estate very, very quickly. And as a result, all she had left was her home. So we ended up selling her 1,200 square foot home, and we got about $110,000 after closing costs. And all those proceeds from the home went toward her long-term care. And do you know how long they lasted? All of 12 months. 12 months, and they were completely gone. Think about that. I mean, this was the equity that her and my grandfather spent 30 plus years of their life building, and it was just gone, just that quickly. And it's heartbreaking, and it left a very big impression upon me. So with all of my grandmother's assets gone, she had to live the last couple years of her life in a Medicaid bed, meaning she had to share a room, and it was a reduced healthcare staff. And Obviously a lot of these healthcare facilities, they're just not making money off Medicaid patients. So obviously you're not going to get the attention and the same level of support you would if you were a paying customer. So, for my grandmother's sake, it just was not the way you wanted to see her go out. And now the reason I bring all this up is I feel it's very important that we learn from the past and not make too many assumptions as it relates to our own retirement. You have the opportunity now to make the preparations to manage your own longevity risk in terms of both income and long-term care. And there's going to be a point in time where it's simply going to be too late to do anything about it. Either the cost will be too substantial, or the compounding effect won't be nearly as meaningful. And you are very fortunate to live in a time period where there are hybrid solutions available on the market that can provide you a highly leveraged long-term care benefit, meaning you can make a smaller investment now, and if you were to go into a confinement, you could get 5 to 6 times your return on your money toward long-term care coverage. And if you don't use it, you don't lose it. It'll maintain cash value, and it can get paid off to a beneficiary as well. So if these are topics that either you or maybe your spouse have been thinking about, don't hesitate to reach out. I know thinking about your own mortality, it's not fun, and the conversations are difficult, but I can tell you just a little bit of planning now can allow you so much more control, and it can take so much burden off your spouse and your children. And I've learned firsthand that is a significant gift. It's one of the best gifts that you can give. And to watch the burden and the sacrifice my parents had to make to manage my grandmother's estate, in the later years of her life, it was really hard. I mean, it was a juggling act, and it's something that I feel could have been greatly improved had there been some strategic planning long ago. So anyways, I'll leave a link on how to reach us in the description below, but it's a story I had to get off my chest, and hopefully it's some food for thought for you as well. But in the meantime, I appreciate your time. Stay safe, and God bless.